He's a digital marketer and a personal branding expert. He runs an online coaching program right now, and he was recognized on the Inc. 5000. Adam Mcchesney is our guest on the podcast today.
Well, I kind of grew inside of corporate America. And so I stumbled my way into medical device sales in 2016. For about 75% of the time, I'm on a plane, in a hotel, Sunday to Thursday. And I was like, there's gotta be a way to make this money without selling my soul. So I typed into Google how to make money online, and I came across digital marketing.
Are there any red flags that you can identify right away and just be like, oh, this is a poser?
I was down in Nicaragua where 10 of my team members are at. And a lot of them have been burned in the past, and I have as well.
Adam Mcchesney is our guest on the podcast today. He's a St. Louis native. We actually came across and crossed paths, I think it was New Year's, and he sent me a DM. I opened it up, and he's like, this is all he said. You want to come on my podcast? I'm like, oh, this is fire. And so I did a little digging, and I found out a couple things about him. So let me give you a brief introduction about Adam. He's a digital marketer and a personal branding expert. He runs an online coaching program right now, and he was recognized on the Inc. 5000. The Inc. 5000 is the top 5,000 fastest growing private companies in the United States. So something very impressive right there. He has also won the Future 50 St. Louis Award, which is the top 50 fastest growing small businesses in St. Louis. And I think with this podcast, something that I just want to make clear from the start is it's going to be a little bit of a different angle with this podcast. Adam, he went into corporate. He left a fantastic job, left a lot of money on the table, left stability to go chase his passion with entrepreneurship. He's a father at home. He's figuring out along the way. So this will be very interesting for myself selfishly, but I think for everyone who's watching this right now. So Adam, thank you for coming on Gross Potential.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm a huge fan of you for many different reasons, but I think the way in which we've connected over the past couple months and just supporting each other and kind of seeing, you know, more than just what social media has, you coming on my podcast, now me being on your podcast, it's really refreshing to be able to see and hear from someone like yourself who's still in college, still got a lot going on and wanting more than the status quo. So kudos to you, man.
I appreciate that. That means a lot. So thank you very much. And let's get started right in this conversation. So I mentioned a couple different things there right off the top. Like left corporate, left a very good job, med device sales. What motivated you to leave medical device sales, leave a $200K salary, leave stability? What motivated you to do that, to pursue your entrepreneurial endeavors?
Yeah, so I kind of grew with inside of the workforce and inside of corporate America fairly quickly. So when I went like basically full time, I got my first full-time job in 2016. And so I graduated college in 2014. For a year and a half, I kind of stumbled around doing different like odd and end jobs because I graduated with 4 degrees and a lot of people still wouldn't hire me. And in that aspect, I just like continued kind of on with my college internship. I, again, was trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do with life. Didn't really know what sales was about. Like I always thought about like sales being like insurance sales or used car salesman, like stuff that I had like no interest in doing. And so I stumbled my way into medical device sales in 2016. And at that first company for the year and a half, like the most I made there was $50K. And so, but I had a lot of experience in sales from those 18 months and also traveling the country. So for about 75% of the time, I was actually on a plane in a hotel Sunday to Thursday. And so I got to see some amazing places, meet some incredible people, and really cut my teeth in sales and time management and hitting quotas. And then I got on with the company called the ResMed, which is where I spent the next three or so years. And I was selling CPAPs, devices, masks, you know, the whole gamut there. And I started in a support role. And then in about 9 months after being there, I got promoted into a key account manager. So that was when I started to make on pace at 200. And the year 2018, I made $200,000.
Mm.
So if you talk about like in 2016, I was my salary and what I made the full year was 35,000.
Wow.
And then 2 years later, I'm clearing 200,000.
Wow.
So that's a massive jump. And it almost happened like too quickly for me to even realize it. And once I got there, I was like, oh, this entire time I was chasing comfortability. I was chasing money. I was chasing things that in all reality, once I had them, didn't fulfill me.
Mm.
And so in 2018, I had just proposed to my now wife, Delaney. I was sitting in a hotel room in Kansas City after traveling a bunch. And I was like, there's got to be a way to make this money without essentially selling my soul working for somebody else, or at least traveling as much as I was. So I typed into Google how to make money online. And I came across the course when I got back on Facebook that taught me how to build digital real estate through digital marketing by building websites, ranking websites, and Google business profiles. And then I did it for 2 years on the side. And then in 2020, I just said, hey, I'm going to go all in, and haven't really looked back since.
So was it more of a travel thing? Or when you say selling your soul, like percentage wise, what do you think it was more of that really pushed you to do it?
So I think it was more on the travel than it was on like selling my soul. But now that I'm on the other side, like I just don't know if I could ever go back and work for somebody else. Yeah. Because in one of the things that kind of tipped it over the edge was we were really pushing ventilators before they were popular during COVID. So like I was going out trying to get ventilators into hospital systems and as the preferred product of durable medical equipment companies. Well, we were paid, right, like pretty decent on those devices because they were very expensive. But once they started to sell so much because everybody was running out of them, our product became a premium product. So we then weren't compensated on that. So it's like a year and a half I invest in getting my knowledge base, building relationships, doing all that stuff. And due to the pandemic, which I get, we start selling more, but then I don't get paid on it. So in corporate America, right, the way I say sell my soul is in a sales position, there's always a limit. They just don't tell you that.
Right.
Or they create one, right? There's a cap or whatever. So now if I put the same amount of hours in working for myself, I know that I have an untapped potential available out there. So that's the way that I look at it. It's not right. It's not wrong, but yeah. I'm a salesperson, right? So if I know if I go do X, at least I know now I don't have a ceiling.
Right. So as a CEO right now and someone who employs a team, how do you make sure that you are operating with those morals and ethics that you're talking about and you're giving people light at the end of the tunnel to grow?
Well, I think at the end of the day, anybody, right, whether you're a CEO or the bottom level employee in a company, or you're somebody fresh out of college that has maybe never worked in the workforce before, or you have, right? I think we are all versions of what we are accustomed to, right? So all of our experiences, right? So like, I'll give you a perfect example. Last week, I was down in Nicaragua where 10 of my team members are at. Yeah. And a lot of them have been burned in the past by bonus plans and compensation plans and a ton of different stuff, right? And I have as well, both as an employee and as a partner in another business. So one of the things that I announced to them last week is like, hey, I want to give everybody a clear path to be able to make more money. And here's essentially like the game plan on how we're going to do it. And so we implemented a profit sharing plan with the entire company, which is almost unheard of in a very, very small business where we are profiting very well right now. But I said, hey, I want it to be so clear and simple that when the company wins, we win. And so I try to instill the things that I liked and didn't like in other CEOs, in other businesses that I've been a part of, So then that way I can form what our culture looks like, but also being very, very clear and transparent.
Yeah.
And it's easy for people to like be able to pick out, right? If I say something as the CEO and then they see me go do something differently online, or when I'm there with them in person last week, I go and act completely different, they're going to catch on to that. So I think a lot of it comes down to being transparent and authentic, but showing them the exact game plan and giving them clarity on how they themselves can be successful while also providing value to the company.
So I listened to a podcast of you. It was yesterday. I can't remember what podcast this was on, but you were talking about like, yeah, some of the times a lot of these businesses out there, maybe especially online businesses, they don't always operate with like morals and ethics. And you just mentioned right there, like you've been burned before from it. And I think we all have too. I've bought courses before and it's actually just a shit product. And then you waste a certain amount of sum of money. How do you think people are getting taken advantage of in this online business coaching space?
Well, so I think a lot of it comes down to like there's no requirement or there's no certification around a lot of this stuff. So like, for example, like somebody does one thing one time or does no thing no time, they can technically be a coach of whatever aspect. So for me, right, I run a digital marketing agency that we just grew it from basically infancy in October after I exited my previous agency, already to a 7-figure business in less than about 6 months.
Yeah.
A lot of what I teach in the mastermind that I have, over 100 members in, is all the stuff that I do in the 7-figure business. The alternative is a lot of people may or may not have ever done the thing, but they're coaching on it. And, or they did the thing one time 3 years ago, they sold that business. Like the big thing in the digital marketing space and really in the coaching space is I built this business super quick. I sell it at like a margin that's very, very low. Like you would never want to tell people publicly what you sold the business before. And then you go be a coach.
Mm.
And so I'm like, no, there's a plenty of opportunity in the space to be a really, really solid coach, but also have the business operating simultaneously. Because if I'm coaching you on something and I'm not actively doing the thing, how am I going to know the trends, the insights, the strategies, the latest and greatest that would make me a better coach?
Yeah. Just a random question. Maybe you have the answer to this, maybe you don't. But it's a great point. Like anybody could come out there, and if you're good at social media, you're good at marketing, and you put out a presence that, you know what, maybe people could trust you, you're probably going to succeed in this business. Are there any red flags that you can identify right away and just be like, oh, this guy's full of shit? Like this is a poser, or do you not know?
I think there's a variety of different. I think it's based on like what it is that you're actively selling. So like, for example, right? Like one of the biggest things is if I'm going to go get coached by someone, and this is just my process, is show me what you've built. And like, I want to see under the hood. So like, for example, on our website right now, you can see my 2021 or my 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, literally like tax reports and records.
Okay.
So like just screenshots, right? But like screenshots from our QuickBooks that says, this is what we did top line revenue. And this is what we did in profit, because I talk all the time about top line revenue and profit. So I always say is like, if you're going to go ask somebody to get coached by them, go ask for those things. And if they say, well, that's personal information, that's whatever, you got to be like, hey, I'm getting ready to spend money with you. And some of the people in my group only spend like $350 a month, but I want transparency and authenticity from the get-go. So I want people to know what they're getting under the hood. And so many people will mention as they were looking into our stuff, they're like, wow, that's really cool. I've never seen that before. And so red flag number one is if you ask them, like a lot of coaches should be asking you, hey, what's your top line revenue? What's your gross profit? Otherwise, they have no idea where you're at in business and how you can help them. So if they're going to ask you for that, you have the right to go, let me see yours too. Or what did you build and sell? And can I see the tangible things? It's not like you're going to go take it and run all over the internet with it. But if they get, a lot of them will get offensive by that. They'll say, hey, Anthony, like, why are you asking for that? Don't you believe me? Like, I'm the coach. You're the student. And so that's like the biggest red flag is I want to see what you built. They can ask you all the questions, but when you ask in return, they get offended.
Yeah, and a little bit of manipulation right in there, saying, "Oh, don't you trust me?" We've all heard that. We've all heard that stuff before. All right, so we're gonna pivot back a little bit because I want to stay on a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, like younger people. We have entrepreneurs. We have ambitious kids, driven. Maybe right now they're being pushed corporate. They don't know what they want to do, but they are very ambitious. And so this is the thing. Like you're sitting there, I can't remember the year, but you're in that hotel room with your wife and you're saying like, man, it's just like, I don't have the fulfillment anymore. Like there is no fulfillment with this position. And then you're making the decision. But what's all going through your head when you're having that conversation with your wife?
So, I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to like future thinking, right? So even though like I proposed in 2018, we got married in 2019, we bought our house in 2020, and that's when we ended up going full time in the business. And then in 2023, we had our firstborn Murphy. So I'm like 5 years ahead thinking, because I am not a massive proponent or like whatever you want to call it, like advocate for 5 and 10 year planning on like, oh, hey, here's the exact amount of revenue I want to do. Here's all these different things that are happening. But like, if I don't know in 5 years what I want my life to look like, my business to look like, my family to look like, from me being able to see and touch it, then I feel like I'm going to be behind the curve. And I can't just be like, oh, hey, we're having a kid now. Now I want to go start a business. No, that would have been a terrible idea, right? So I was thinking ahead. I, again, didn't know what it would happen in 2023, 5 years later, but I was thinking is, will I be able to show up as the best version of myself as a father and as a husband if I'm doing this? And to me, it's like traveling 75% of the time, me being gone 75% of the time, just to say that I'm making $200,000 and obviously likely more than that per year. I feel like that's selling my soul to be able to provide for my family, even though I'm not present.
Okay, so you make the decision, you decide to go all in. Was there any doubt after it? Like, was there a moment where you're saying, dude, I think I screwed up, or no?
There have been multiple moments where that's happened, right? So like it took me till 2020. So I basically built up my craft for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020. I built 200 websites. I started testing stuff out. And then I got confident enough to say, hey, I'm going to go all in on this business. It's now or never, right? And then a month after I went all in, I sold literally $0 of revenue inside of my brand new business that like wasn't profiting any money. And so what I essentially told myself is I got to figure out a way to generate leads for my own business. So then that way I can go generate leads for my clients' businesses. Right. So I started investing into personal branding. That started to help kind of take off in August of 2020. And then we continued to kind of grow and grow and grow and grow. But then at like the 9-month mark, I still hadn't paid myself. It wasn't that we were like not generating enough money in the business. I was investing so much of it into a team. I bought a franchise to become a franchisee of a digital marketing agency. I was building a lot of the foundational stuff that over the last couple of years allowed me to really grow and scale. And so I could have like said, hey, no, I need everything. But it was still at that moment where I'm like, hey, like we're depleting our bank account to basically go all in again on this thing. And it's still not, basically paying off. But then 6 months later, we started making really good money again that I was actually taking home. So that was like the first, month 1, month 9. And then I became basically a partner of that franchise digital marketing agency. I wrote a check for 6 figures in addition to basically bringing over my almost $175,000 in recurring monthly revenue. I brought my entire team with me. So I had about 6 or 7 team members, and then all of my clients. And that was in June of 2023. So we're talking a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now, I guess. And then the whole prospect behind that was Murphy's going to be born. I didn't want to run the business myself anymore. I thought I needed a partner. I thought I wasn't going to be able to be like the CEO that my team needed. And I was just burnt out after like a 3-year sprint of being an entrepreneur and building this business. And so that went sideways. I lost everything again. Well, I shouldn't say again, kind of the first time I lost everything, and I had to restart basically all of 2024, go through a lawsuit trying to get something back for everything I invested. I obviously had ownership in the company, et cetera. And then we were able to relaunch again in October. So like all of 2024 was basically like me thinking like, why did I do this? It would be a lot easier just to go work for somebody else. But now we're out, here in 2025, on the other side.
Man, I mean, it keeps switching like this. Like you have it up here one day and then you lose it. And then you stay consistent. You try to build it back and you get it up here, which is an impressive thing. But a couple times during that story, you're talking about how, you have to write a check for X amount of money, or you have to do this or this. Like as a young kid, I was having a conversation with my parents the other day, and they're like, how much money do you have in your bank account? I'm like, I got X amount of money. And they're on my case. You got to start investing this stuff. Like you got to be putting it in. But I'm sitting here right now and like, I'm trying to think long term. Like I'm going to be on my own next year. So I'm going to have to pay rent. I'm going to have to do all this stuff. I'm running a podcast. I'm running a personal brand. It's 2 businesses. Like I need cash to be able to spend. So what's your take for a kid right now on entrepreneurship? How, like, should there be cash in the bank account? Should it be invested? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I always tell people, and this is what I do in my own business, is keep 6 months worth of overhead inside of your business bank account. So we'll just use like rough numbers. If my overhead, and that includes like what I would be paying myself inside of the business, let's just say it's $20,000 a month between my employees, the software, the taxes, whatever that might be, that would then say, okay, multiply that by 6, that's 120,000. I'm not saying that again, on day one, I'm going to have 120,000 ready to go. But if I have a bunch of money in there, that's what I want minimum before I'm going to start investing it elsewhere. Because I truly believe, and I have seen this time and time again, the best place to invest your money is in yourself and in your business. There are infinite returns you will get on both of those things. So I'll give you a perfect example on that. We hired 3 of what will actually be like key players inside of our organization. 2 of 3 we did not like need right now. But one of those people is essentially going to replace like 90% of the activities that I'm doing on a daily basis. So I'm not going to like give his exact salary, but let's just say it's $5,000 a month, right? If I wanted to take that $5,000 out every single month and go invest that somewhere over the course of a year, that's $60,000. I can go make $5,000 a month in a couple of hours because I sell recurring revenue inside of our digital marketing agency, and our average client pays us between $2,500 to $5,000 a month. Now, not all of that, of course, is going to be profit, but by paying somebody $5,000 to get 90% of my time back on a daily basis has infinite return on investment, where if I go invest $5,000 a month in whatever else that's out there, I'm going to be like incrementally growing that, which is important. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But so many people want to go that route or nothing before they invest in employees, in software, in technology, and coaches.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to invest in themselves, especially young kids? Like, what's holding them back from doing it?
I think it's fear, right? Like, what if this doesn't work?
Right.
I always tell people, like, well, let's say, like, what if it does, right? Like, what if this does work? The other aspect is when you're investing in a coach, I don't care if it's one-to-one or if it's group, or even if you're investing in an employee or a technology, you have to play a role in this. So like part of it is that people just actually don't want to grow and get better. You don't just pay, like right now I'm paying over 6 figures a year for a coach and a consultant.
Okay.
Like that is scary, but like they both told me that like, Adam, if you don't do your part in this, this won't work. So a lot of people are going to look at that and say, hey, Anthony, I'm going to invest $100,000 in these two things. And then they're going to expect the coach and the consultant to just go in and do everything for them. That's not how that stuff works. And so I think it's fear. I think it's the accountability aspect that people say that they want to grow or get better or do whatever, but they're unwilling to do their part in the situation. And then I would say like the third thing is just, I think a lot of people associate like money going out with expenses. And so that kind of turns into a mindset thing. I literally have like a Google sheet, right? And on the Google sheet, it's every single line item that we pay on a monthly basis. Now, from a tax perspective or from a CPA and accounting perspective, yes, it's an expense, but I actually have listed it as investments. So my employees are investments, my salary is an investment, my coach is an investment, the freaking every little software we use is an investment. So most of this stuff is everybody's mindset is that every single thing of money out is an expense. Right. And it's really an investment into something.
And it's a great point. One thing I want to share is when I was younger, like my motivations right now completely different from a couple years ago. Like when I was a freshman in college and probably in high school, all I wanted to do is be rich. Like all I was driven for was freaking money. I just want to make $1 million. And so what I do is I'd work these internships. And as soon as I get a check, I would put it into the market. I would put it into stocks. I would put it into crypto. That's all I would do because I had no self-belief and confidence to invest it in myself. And that is just like an empty way of doing it. And you're putting all your risk and you're essentially gambling with something out of your control because you don't think you can do it. The moment everything changed for me was when I actually started investing in myself. When I started buying tickets to a business planning workshop, or when I started hiring an employee, or I started buying books. Because at the end of the day, like it puts so much control into your hands. And you know what that control and confidence and belief does for you? It 10x's every single part of your life. So if you're a listener right now and you're hearing this part, holy shit, don't put your stuff like me into random crypto coins. Like put it into yourself, and the ROI on that, like Adam said, I truly believe like it's infinite. It's a fantastic point that you just made. Anyway, we had a little rant right there. Okay. So back to this entrepreneurship part. You mentioned something a little bit about, like your family and your kid and traveling. And I really want to get your take on this because I'm very interested. And I have a story with my own family about this too. But like, do you think it's necessary for you to be home every single night and to be there for your kid always? Or do you think it's advantageous that he sees his dad, maybe coming in late, maybe not there on weekends, working his ass off and not around all the time, and he's observing that and learning that way? What's your opinion on that?
Man, it's a really good question because like my dad owned a law firm pretty much my entire life. And so I saw literally everything, under the sun when it comes to that. I think it's depending upon the stage of where they're at. Right. And I know that's not like a great answer. So I have, for the listeners, I have Murphy who's 18 months old. And so like, I was just out of the country for 7 straight days. And so like, I would FaceTime him literally every single day with my wife at home. And so like, I don't necessarily know if at 18 months, and I believe it to be true, that he didn't realize that I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Whereas like, a year from now, it's probably going to be escalated even further where he's like, where's dad? Why isn't dad here? And that might even be 6 months from now. Who knows? So I'm trying to do these things right now. So then that way I get more of my time back and it's not a necessity thing moving forward. But also there's been, he's been to Florida now 5 times in 18 months, all of which came from when I was speaking at an event or traveling or doing something. So he was able to come with me, and my wife as well, because my wife didn't go back to work after we had the baby. So like I'm building all of these things so we can do it collectively together. So that's like the traveling away part. Now, the part of like the working late or the working on weekends thing is something that I'm consistently trying to navigate because it's one of the harder things. Like right now we're going through a season in business where it's just build internally. And my team needs me more than they've ever needed me before, but I also need to do my daily things too in order to push the business, forward, right? And so there's just not enough hours in the day a lot of times. Yeah. So I try to be home right around 5:30 at the latest every single day, and I try to limit my work on the weekends. Now, there are going to be weeks and weekends where that doesn't always align and doesn't add up. But I think it's about the promise that you make to yourself and that you make to them. So and what I mean by that is if I say, hey, family, I'm not going to work on weekends, and they hear me say that and believe in me, and then all of a sudden I'm working literally every single weekend, I'm up at the office, I'm up doing all that stuff, that is a problem. Now, if I tell them, hey, I'm not going to be home until 6 this week because I have X, Y, and Z going on, and then I need to go into the office on Saturday to create a bunch of content, but I'm going to wake up early and be home by X. I think that's a lot better because you're proactively communicating it and they know what to expect.
Well, so 5-10 years down the road, like I get at this point, Murphy's 18 months. Does he have a lot of consciousness if his dad's around? He probably does, but he doesn't really register it. It's more like when he gets to be a teen or this and that. Like, are you working right now to build a foundation to be able to completely outsource a lot of stuff and be available or not? Like, what's the future look like 5-10 years?
Yeah, 100%. Like one of the hardest things that I had to go basically do last year was I said that I was building everything for my family. I built a $2.5 million agency that I basically, through a bad series of partnership deals, self-imploded the whole thing with other people, right? And I had to start over at zero. So like I said, hey, I don't want to go to zero because I'm afraid I'm going to do it on my own. I did it anyway because I made some bad decisions. And so Murphy was 9 months old as we had to file the lawsuit, go through and do all that stuff. I had to go back to my wife and say, hey, I have to rebuild again all over. I have to go do what I did 3 years ago. And now I have to do it when Murphy's this young and you're not working. Like I'm going to have to make some sacrifices. So I think when I said that, right, I meant everything that I said, but I said, hey, like, I'm not going to go do this again. I learned my very expensive mistake. So then that way in the future, we don't have to do this. And so 5 to 10 years down the road, like I don't see myself running the actual day to day of this company or really any company outside of a holding company that umbrellas a lot of the other things that we do. Cause I do own a couple other businesses as well. And so what I'm building right now is setting the stone and the foundation to be able to go do that, which is why, 6 months into a brand new business, I'm paying 6 figures for a coach and consultant because I know what they can do to speed up where I want to go as an individual so I can be the best version of myself, who is the best version of the father and husband that he wants to be.
Right. Okay. So when you lost it all and your son's 9 months old and you're having this conversation with your wife and you're like, you got to trust me. I've learned, let me do this again. How much pressure is on you at that point? And is pressure the right word, or is there a different word that's just infiltrating everything?
I think pressure is a good word, but I would say like the weight, like carrying the weight, right? Like I felt I was carrying the weight of like when I went, I'll give you a perfect example. So like when I went all in 2020, my wife was still working. So we got on her insurance. And I said, hey, I'm going to give myself we have about 9 months worth of money saved up. I'm essentially going to give myself 9 months to prove the concept. But at the end of the day, I didn't have employees, and I had Delaney and myself. So like, if all fails, then like, I'll just go get a job, right? Obviously we figured out that I proved the concept. Fast forward to last year, we're now like, I got, when everything went down, I'm not going to get into all the crazy details because we could talk about that for 3 hours, but I lost my insurance for my family. I'm a type 1 diabetic. Murphy is young, right? Like, lost all that because of the situation that happened. My wife's not back to work, and I lost everything, essentially. Not to mention, I had this office here. I had like $5,000 of overhead that I had to cover as I was rebuilding. And I have Murphy now as well. So the weight, right, and the pressure that's on there versus what happened in 2020, not to mention I did also have an employee at the time, that is a lot more. So for me, it was like the weight was significantly higher and bigger and heavier than before. But I performed much better because my back was against the wall in 2020 just because I went all in. But I had 3 years of now experience, well, almost 4 years of experience doing this already. So I believe I would have cracked and failed because I almost did that anyway in 2024. But if I was under the same circumstances in 2020, we don't have insurance, Delaney's not working, Murphy's 9 months old, I wouldn't have been able to do it, which is why I mentioned back in 2018 when I had that inkling that I wanted to kind of maybe do something, I was 5 years ahead. So when something did come down, crash and burn, I was able to recover because I had 4 years of experience.
So what does a day in the life look like at that time? Typical consistent day. Backs against the wall. What does it look like?
Man, it was like 90% content creation and sales and like 10% admin and taking care of clients. So we were only able, because I was in a non-compete, so I couldn't go do digital marketing stuff. Non-compete in a lawsuit, I built up the coaching community in the mastermind. So it was literally just like going and doing it and then doing one-off consulting things. But like I turned into the salesperson, but I said, hey, at some point, I'm going to be able to sell digital marketing again. I'm just going to produce so much content that people are like, wow, I want this guy. And whenever he's able to go do digital marketing again, like I want to do it with him. So we had this like waiting list built up. And when we relaunched in October, like that's why we've been able to sign up clients so much. So the lesson in there for everybody is like, even if something's not working in the moment, because in that moment, like it was working, I just couldn't go sell and fulfill on it. Continue to do it over and over and over and over and over again, even if the result isn't happening that you immediately want, because one day it will.
Yeah, well said. I completely agree. I think that's also one of the best things about not seeing instant success right away. I'm learning very quickly in this game of content. There's some people that get success like this in a second. They're just very good at it, or what is it? Maybe it's their looks, whatever. They're getting a ton of traction. But as you come to find out, like that's gonna die out, and then you're gonna be put up to the freaking test. Like, do you really know what you're doing? Have you developed skills? Have you developed persistency? And I don't know. It's a case study right now with a couple of people that I observed myself. Maybe they'll make it, maybe they won't. But I think not having success at the start is literally one of the best blessings in disguise that anybody could ever get. And just to wrap up this conversation, this all started from the point I wanted to make about, you being a father, being around for your son. Is it worth it? Is it not? My dad and my mom, they always worked late. Like they were not stay-at-home parents. I was always at my Nana's house. My dad traveled 5 days a week. I don't regret that for 1 second. It was awesome because I'm observing and seeing what work ethic looks like, seeing what commitment looks like. And I appreciate every second of that. And so that's kind of where that question stemmed from. And I just want to get your take on it. But I definitely see both sides 100%. I think it is important, though, for kids, at least from a kid's perspective, just to see their parents working hard, which your son will. Like it adds a lot for you.
Absolutely.
All right. My next question for you, like on the topic of, not getting that consistent success right away, what was your biggest bottleneck at like 100K, 6 figures? And then how'd you push past that to get up to 7 figures?
Yeah. So I think trying to do all the work myself, right? So like I got up to about the 300,000 a year mark, like trajectory by doing everything inside of the business. So like I would sell the website and sell the SEO, and then I would go do it myself. And so I would go up and down, up and down, up and down based on like me finishing projects and turning it into like an ongoing thing. So that was when I started to hire more people. That was when I became a franchisee of this digital marketing agency. I started to basically remove myself from the situation. And then the next big bottleneck, which is the bottleneck, which is the bottleneck we're going through right now again, was how do I replace Adam from revenue generating activities? So like right now I'm still doing the one. There's a business owner that reaches out that wants digital marketing. I'm still going and doing the selling. So we have our first salesperson inside of this business starting on Monday, because that's the bottleneck that like is the hardest one to basically uncover, because the owner is always going to be the best salesperson 99% of the time. And they're always going to probably sell at a higher clip, at a higher percentage than anybody else. But for me, I would rather sell whatever we're capable of selling with another person without me having to sell all of the time.
Really? Okay. So I think that whole part with bringing in employees got to be super tough, especially because, you're probably better. You also have a certain way and standard that things are. What advice do you have? Or maybe you don't have advice because you're still figuring out. Like, how do you take what's up here and put it in somebody else's head and trust them to do it? Do you micromanage at first? Is it good to micromanage and then you back off? Like, what does that process look like?
Micromanagement happens when you don't have good processes and systems and you don't give clarity to your employees.
Okay.
So the biggest aspect is like we have a new employee starting on Monday. Okay, what does day one look like? What does day two look like? What does day three look like? And what does success look like for you inside of this role? The worst thing that can happen is somebody's like, I have no idea if I'm doing a good job or not. There needs to be clear and defined KPIs. There needs to be processes and systems, SOPs, and QA done on everything. And now, again, I can't be the person that does all of that stuff. So we have people that will train our employees based on the department that they're in. We have certain KPIs that we can take a look at. Did they hit this or did they not? And then we have the whole aspect internally of like, okay, we have a project management tool. Well, did they complete the task? Did they complete it on time? Well, then did they complete it well? So there's different checklists and aspects of that. But I think the biggest thing is you can provide clarity and then a roadmap for success.
How much emphasis do you put on culture within your organization?
So I think culture is done in two different ways, by the things you say and the things that you do. So for us, we have our core values. So we talk about them all the time. I was with the team last week and it was just like, hey, this whole week is based on our core values, which are in the acronym of TRUST. Take action, results matter, utilize resources, set expectations, and transform lives. Every single decision, internally and externally, needs to be made on that basis. Yeah. If it's not related to those things, then it's not on the table. But if I say those things and then I as the leader go do something differently, that hurts culture. If I tell somebody to do something and then I don't do it myself, that hurts culture. So that's why I say culture is built by what you say and what you do.
So based on your culture, what do you think formulated that? Was it mistakes you've made in the past? Was it other people you work for and you're like, God, I hate what this guy's doing right now. This is going to be a non-negotiable in my business someday. How do you formulate those pillars of culture?
I would say a combination and a formula of all of those different things, as well as what employees bring to the table. So like, I don't believe in the aspect of like, our culture is this, and when we bring on new employees, like they have to succumb to our culture and we can't take their ideas, can't take what like they love about certain things and go do it. So I believe that there is a foundation of culture, which is core values, mission, values, all of those different things. And then from there, culture can always be molded into something else more in the future.
Yeah, I think culture fires me up. Like, it's so important. And I think the thing that's scary about culture though is like, I believe as a smaller business, like right now I have one employee. Like you can set a culture. But like as you slowly expand and expand and expand, I got to think it just gets harder and harder. So like as you continue to grow, what is your ideas on how to keep that culture consistent with all of your employees?
I think making sure that you never lose sight of where you play like the key role inside of the business. So like when I was growing last time, my whole thought process was like, how do I remove myself as quick as freaking possible? So then that way other people can take over what I'm doing. Like as the CEO and the owner of the business, one of your main responsibility is really culture. Like you are the one that started the company or took over as the CEO or whatever you want to call it. And if you're not living out the culture yourself, culture will go up and down based on the individual players that you have within inside of your organization. So if you want to just turn your head and say, well, culture is what it is, then that's great. But you have to have your finger on the pulse of how your company culture is, both when you are around and when you are not there.
And so up to this point, like you've slung a lot of very good info and a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge that it's going to add a ton of value to people's lives. But I'm trying to understand, who was Adam at 18 years old? Who was Adam in college? Who is Adam in corporate? And how has he transformed to today?
I think the characteristics of where I'm at today were instilled in me a long time ago. So I played sports my entire life. I'm a very competitive person. I played college soccer, pretty much any sport still right now, that if there was like a pickup game or they said, hey, we need a fill in on whatever team, right? I could still, at my age, playing against people roughly around my age, consider myself being like above average. Yeah. So the competitiveness, the athleticism, the just two-a-days in college, like whatever you want to call it, those things were always there. How I leveraged those things and how I lived out my life have been dramatically different in all of those stages. So college, I was a college soccer player, but I was focused way more on the partying aspect and being the life of the party at the party. And I always had the fear of missing out, right? So like college soccer game, can't go out the night before, whatever it might be, like, oh my gosh, I missed out on that Friday night. Like that was where my mind was at. Graduate college, go into corporate America, and it was like, well, how much can I drink on the weekends, or how many nights can I do it without sacrificing my work on, Monday morning? So again, it was about the party, but I'm grown up a little bit. I have more responsibilities. I want to do it and find my breaking point before it affects what happens Monday through Friday. And then was different, varying aspects throughout all that. Now, when I first became, I'd say for the first 6 months of being an entrepreneur, right, it was like, oh, well, I now work for myself. I can figure out how to be like the life of the party, and then I'll just work around. It, right? Which is why that first month I sold literally $0 in revenue. So very quickly I realized I got into self-development. I started reading books. I started listening to podcasts. I I started joining masterminds. I went to my first event, October 2020, in person. I would say from 2021 until now was really that like continuous level up where it's just been, I'm not going to say like a hockey stick growth, but like I've continued to level up my mindset and self-development without losing sight of like, oh my gosh, I need to be the life of the party, or there always needs to be a party. And that comes with like, I took 9 months off of drinking. I've done 75 hard. I now have a kid, right? So a lot changes. And when your environment changes, it helps you level up in the process.
Right. Okay. So looking back right now, though, you have all this knowledge. If you could go back to college or maybe that time in corporate America, would you make your decisions differently? Or do you think it's important to live out a certain phase of your life where you're partying and having fun?
I'm not even going to say and tie in the partying and having fun part to the answer to the question. I think this might be a little bit more beneficial. Is I'm grateful for the series of events that I went through in order to get where I'm at, especially corporate America, because I learned like obviously sales and structure and all of that stuff, which you don't have in entrepreneurship because you have to go create it. The only thing I would have done differently is start a business in college. And then try and go like take that business to the next level right out of college, because that's the point where you have basically, I mean, you can always move in with your parents or somewhere else or live somewhere like super cheap. Like my first apartment after college was like, it was 2014, 2015. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't that much. Your overhead is very low.
Yeah.
Your living expenses and overhead will never be as low as it is in that period. So go take the chance then, because I see so many people that are my age right now that are like, Adam, you've inspired me to start a business. I finally want to go and do it. And it takes them forever to go do it because they have a family. They have 3 kids. They have a mortgage. It's harder to take that chance and go do it now. So if you're listening to this and you've been wanting to like go explore that and take the chance, I mean, there's never a better time than literally doing it right now.
Great point. Damn. Well said. Well, mic drop after that. On that note, I mean, we're right at the end. My next question was going to be like, for the kid right now that's listening to this, they've got big dreams. They may be a little bit shy, unconfident, insecure, care what people think about them. They're just not sure. Is there any other piece of advice that you would give to them?
Work on yourself and work on your mindset. Those are 2 things that I've done that had I not done those, I would not be where I'm at right now. You can be the most talented person. You can be the least talented person. If you don't have a good mindset and you don't invest in yourself, you will always struggle, because the more successful you are, the harder it actually gets, because more people know who you are. More people will talk about you. You'll care in theory about more what people think of you because more people are thinking about you. And if you don't level up all of those different components, you are going to struggle. It will cause you unnecessary stress and anxiety, and that's going to keep you from reaching your fullest potential.
Well said. I appreciate that, Adam. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. That's probably going to be the best place, Adam L. Mcchesney. I'm also on Facebook, Adam Mcchesney. And then you can go to AdamMcchesney.com, see all my different social media links, and find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in to Gross Potential. Adam, thank you for coming on. Those 2 pieces of advice at the end, like that stuff, I'm sure it's going to hit deep for the audience. It hit deep for me. So I really, really appreciate you sharing your story, some business knowledge, getting into advice like that. You've got just, it is an inspiring story. So I am looking forward to the impact that this conversation has on a lot of kids' lives, including myself. So thank you again so much for your time and coming on. And everybody, take care. We'll be back next week. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Somewhere on the screen should direct you to somewhere else in our channel. But as always, believe foolishly.